Stand up. Hey.
Labor is visionary. Labor is leadership. Labor is next gen. Labor is red and ready for Election Day. On Saturday, May 23rd, we start our official virtual grand campaign launch at 8 p.m. live on Facebook, YouTube, Freedom FM, and Kiss FM. Get ready to rally behind your candidate and be prepared to vote for the hand. A vote for Labor is a vote for you. It's all about you.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the pre-show for the St. Kitts-Nevis Labour Party grand virtual launch. That's a lot to say. It's been a bit of a new kind of season for us during this election cycle. We've never had to experience it this way before, so as you can see, we're here being as innovative as we can to bring you all the excitement of the season here live. We're just going to begin this evening with the pre-show, and we have so much more, so stay tuned. I will be one of your hosts. I'm Naima, and I'm joined by
Kenyatta Tyson.
And I'm Tivana Wharton.
Okay, so we're here, and we're just going to be talking openly just about some issues. We're going to look at where we've come from in labor, where we are, and where we're going in the future. I'm going to permit you to let me to release my mask because it's kind of suffocating me, and we're really trying to keep at a safe distance here. Everybody's sanitized, and so hopefully we are trying to observe everything and make sure that you are out at home, you're safe at home watching us, and we're out here being safe, providing this show for you. So I'm just going to dip it down a bit. I hope I don't have like lipstick all over my chin. How do I look? How do I look, Kenya? Yeah, all right. So we're going to begin. We're so happy to be here. Is this your first elections?
Indeed.
It is. How old are you, mind me asking?
21.
21, a first-time voter.
Yes.
And how do you feel about that? Are you excited
Well,
about?
I'm very excited. It's thrilling, seeing everything in action. So we're just going to see what happens.
Just going to see what happens, yeah. So when did you register to vote?
On my birthday, April 20th, 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Oh, you were ready.
Oh, I was ready.
He wasn't joking. He was like, I turned 18, I'm registering to vote. That means you don't got to wait in line with everybody else. That's great. I'm glad you won't be in line behind the Spanish. Okay. And of course, Savannah, everybody knows that you've been a Labour baby from Bonn. So everybody knows you're quite outspoken.
Labor with a lot of meaning, though.
Yes.
Not just by birth. I'm Labor with for very good reasons.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Labor with purpose.
Yes, Labor with purpose. That's the word.
That's
purpose.
right. And that's what we're actually looking at here. I know everybody always says, I've been talking to a lot of young people, and a lot of the young people have been saying, they're not going to vote because they just vote their parents tell them to vote, and what's the point of voting, and why do we even bother to vote, and they're not going to go out to vote. And really, we want to start this pre-show today just to start talking to you about the history of the party and understanding why you even have the right to vote and a lot of the privileges that we enjoy here in St. Kitts-Nevis. So we're going to begin there and just move right through as we get you to the next gen agenda. All right, so let's begin. So we want to start, it always begins at the same place. I know where I'm going to say it always begins at the same place, in the Buckley's riots. Most young people learn about the Buckley's riots in school, but I don't know how many really understand the significance of the riots, not just in St. Kitts-Nevis, but actually across the region. So did you learn about the riots in school?
Oh, yes. I learned pretty early in primary school. Our teachers made sure that we know our history. And I am proud to say that I know my history.
Yeah.
And so that is why I can tell you that the Buckley's riot was one of the momentous occasions in the region in the 1930s. It started in 1932.
When the party started. I think the Buckley riots are the 1935.
Yeah.
Right. It was January 28th. The workers at that time, they were demanding an increase in their wage. And the overseer, he was like, no,
No, I don't think
because they weren't increasing the prices for cane. And the worker was like, oh, really? You know, so we are going to start to, you know, protest.
But actually, let me interrupt you because it's actually significant. It wasn't that it was an unfairness because some of the workers on the other plantations were getting a raise.
Increase,
One
right.
got, like some got an increase, some got some and some got none. So it was a sense of unfairness. So I just wanted to bring that because I know we talk a lot about how does Buckley's riots relate to today, and it's the same kind of sense of unfairness,
Right.
you know? Continue, I'm sorry.
Right. So, you know, they left the plantation in Buckley's. They went to Shadwell. They went to Brighton. They picked up workers. They convinced the workers to put down their tools. They damaged equipment in the process. And for the next 2-3 days, they went around the island, you know, collecting workers. And it ended up back in Buckley's. And that was where everything went down. The governor at the time, he asked for
He had to
military,
send for help, yeah.
right, military intervention from Bermuda. And, you know, it was a big thing, the police shooting at people. And what I would say, though, is that the women at the time, they encircled the men to prevent them from being shot. So women have been very critical when it comes to, you know, protesting and, you know, making
And protecting.
change. Right. So that's really the movement that started a whole...
I'm gonna have to say, I don't think I ever knew the part about the women surrounding. I'm always, every time I hear the story, it's like, you know, when you read the Bible, every time you read it, it's got a new part. Yeah, but I never knew that the women encircled the men to protect
Encircled
them.
the men to
I did know
protect
that gunshots went off, and you know, we don't want any of that kind of. Again, fair and free elections. We don't want any violence. We just want to speak about the Buckley's context in relation to our rights and how difficult it was in the past, and how the privileges that we've come to enjoy in 2000 and the 2000s that we came to enjoy were things that we could take for granted. So
Right.
you're 21
One.
years old. So like you were born into the into labor being
Yeah,
in power,
right.
right? I grew up, I know a lot of people know, in Canada, and I grew up in the diaspora while labor wasn't in power. And I remember a lot for me in terms of the organizing around the union and the work that the people in the diaspora did. So I know it's a lot when we talk about the issue of people coming home to vote. I know that it's a sensitive issue, and because there's COVID, we I think all agree that we need to put our country's interest at heart. But I think that there's always been a relationship between people who leave for opportunity and what they bring back to St. Kitts, you know, and coming back for that and that tie-in. So my childhood was tied into like the union and the organizing around the union, and you know, in Ontario, and,
Right.
and the relationship with Canada, etc. So I think I never even understood it, and I grew up in it. So like until the other day when we did March Where You Be, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna call my mom and I'm gonna ask her like some questions so I make sure that, you know, I know what I'm talking about, you know. And when she started to talk, I realized, oh wait, like, oh, we did grow up in that. So I think a lot of the times we think that we take it for granted, but you know, it's easy to take things for granted if it wasn't your particular struggle.
Right.
Right, so it's not a criticism, just a reminder that if we don't know where we come from, then we're lost moving into the future.
Certainly.
Certainly. Okay, so we talked about the Buckley's riots and the formation of the Trades and Labor Union that came out of the riots and the organizing. And the emergence of the Labour Party and the pioneers of labor. Now, did you watch March Where You Be?
I watched some of it.
You did. And how did you feel about that? Because I learned a lot from the people even speaking about their intimate relationships. You know, like we know everybody, like we all know Earl Clark, but we don't really think that when he was friends with, like we don't really think of them as, like we think like, oh, the pioneers, but we don't remember when they were alive. We don't have our own experience, but there are generations who have that experience. How do you feel that that translates for young people? Do you think that that's the importance of the pioneers? What example that sets for us as a nation moving forward as we make this decision coming to elections?
Now, right. Now, when you think of a role model, you seem to look at people who are on TV, who, overall is intelligent, who carries themselves well, who has a good success story. We never tend to look within. Look at our history and see who from, our nation's birth could we look at, who we can idolize, and see where they came from. And that is why I admire so much Robert L. Bratcher. Because, as the book says, commoner to king. He came from nothing. And he rose to become the premier of our island. Well, the islands. As a matter of fact, he even led the West Indies Federation. And these are the kind of stories that, amaze me. And I think we all have some big shoes to fill, to ensure that what he fought for, though so many years ago, don't go in vain. And so I really admire Robert L. Bratcher for his work, for his diligence, his passion for his people, his country. I really, really admire that.
Yeah. I think that the example of Bratcher is a really good one to bring to the forefront at this time, because it was a need. He saw something that he wanted better, he wanted better, and the opportunities weren't out there for everybody. And he wanted all his people to have opportunity, that he knew he too was he was a commoner, but he knew that with opportunity you could do better. So he wanted everybody to have the opportunities. Right. So he got opportunity, he struggled for his opportunity, he wanted everybody to have opportunity. And I think that's one of the values that's what I always take away from Bradshaw. When I hear people speak about him, I always think that he saw what the nation needed and what the people needed, and he worked with the people to achieve it. And they didn't always like him. I think people forget, they didn't always like Bradshaw. They didn't always like him, but he had the best interests of the nation at heart.
I grew up hearing my grandmother speak a lot about Robert Bratcher. He was a charismatic leader. He was not one who stayed in office and, make decisions and, watch it unfold. He was on the ground. He went places, spoke to people. And one of the, policies of Robert Bratcher that my grandmother loved was his health plan. To ensure that there were, clinics all over the island to attend to the different people. And my grandmother was one of the many people in Keon that had trigger. I don't think y'all remember trigger. It went around in the 1940s, around there.
No. What was that, like 1940 Corona?
It was something in your foot. Like it stemmed from dirty water. I think it was right.
Wow. Even that, we don't even think about the privilege of clean water.
Right, and this spread throughout the region.
Wow.
And so Robert Bratcher, he ensured that there were clinics to tend to the people around the island. It was affordable. These are the things that my grandmother adored about him, that he cared about his people. And,